Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fourth episode of Inspiration Friday, brought to you by Matteo. I am your host, Matteo, and this is the final installment of the topic Happenstance and Serendipity as we round out the month of July. And this episode, I'm going to discuss some work that I started. It's a series that I started last year. And I haven't worked on it a whole lot this year as I can't get into the darkroom, but the museum that I go to, the Kalamazoo Institute of Arts, is open now, and they have fall semester classes, so hopefully I can get into the darkroom and do some more work. But I was going to share this series with you because it works right into the topic of this month, Happenstance and Serendipity, as it would have not been created if it wasn't for this chance happening with a roll of film. The series I'm calling currently, the working title is Opscurus, and it is an amalgamum of the words optics and the Latin word obscurus, which means like shadowy or gloomy or mysterious. And that's just the way it sort of looks, the sort of aura and feel of the images. The camera that I used was this little plastic, it's kind of shiny, Ansco Cadet 2 camera from like the 50s or 60s that my mother gave to me. She found like a garage sale or yard sale, estate sale or something, and so I took it out like I do with any new camera I got, and I run a roll of film through it to see if the shutter's working correctly and how it works and how it feels, and to get an idea of the layout of the negatives, as some are square format and some are rectangular and so forth. So I took it to South Haven and went there with a friend and just shot some random stupid images just to see how it would behave. And one image in particular showed up, and I will show it to you. And it was of something I had no idea what it was. It was just light and shadow, very abstract, non-representational, very modern, and I loved it. It was really the only image on the whole roll that was worth printing. And it spurred an entire series and concept. And that concept was influenced by a photographer, Hiroshi Sugimoto. He's Japanese, he's actually an architect, but he's been taking pictures for decades, and he, over a series of 30 some years, and I think he's still working on it, he created a series called Seascapes. And I have his monograph of Seascapes. This is the cover, which is an image. I'll show you some slides so you can get a better idea. He just took pictures of the sea all over the world, of different bodies of water at different times of day and even at night, I think. And all of his images have that horizon line right in the middle, and a lot of times you can't tell even if it's what it is. Sometimes it looks like the sea, and sometimes it's just lights and darks. There's studies in tonality, and the series that I'm working on is very much the same. So without further ado, wait. I do have an image that's framed. Ooh, yes, really bad glare. You can see where my lights are coming from. And, we can kind of get a hint, sort of a fake horizon line there I think I created with the dark and then into the lights. Wow, that is really bad. So I don't want to take this out of the glass and scan it and show it as a slide, which would be much easier to tell what it is, because I have that framed. And it was part of 5 images that I had framed and collected to show to the local artists guild, which I was going to join this year, and that did not happen because I thought, what would be the point of joining the artists guild if we couldn't do anything because we can't meet? One of the biggest benefits of joining the guild is that they have periodic art sales in the park, and they have a big sale in the holiday season at the end of the year, and you can't participate in any of those because they're canceled, all of them. I've actually juried a show last year for them, and it was in the park, and that again was also canceled. So I'm just going to hold off till next year, but I don't want to take anything out of, I don't want to do extra work by taking things apart and then having to put them back together. So let's go look at the slides. Real quick, this is the contact sheet of the roll of film that I put through that little toy camera, and as you can see, there's not very much that's interesting in there. Quite a few things that are really blown out. Must have taken pictures of the sun. I think there was a sky in there somewhere, but the third row in the middle, there's like little white streaks that are coming up into dark sky or something. I really don't know what that is, but I thought it looked really cool. And this is one of those funky things that can happen with film that you don't really get with digital. I mean, you can get odd camera shots, especially if you're using your phone and you are taking photos and maybe you clicked and didn't realize it. I've seen people show images that I think they've taken in their pocket by accident because they left the camera app open. But this is really something that's indicative to film, that you just, these little weird chances and happenings just don't happen with digital, because most of the time if people see them, they just delete it thinking it's garbage. And in film, it's really forever. I mean, I could cut that one, you know, not just that one, but all these sort of blown out frames. I could cut them out, but you don't do that with film because you want the film strip to be as long as possible, and it has to do with the enlarger and how it makes it more difficult if you just have like random short strips in there. And so when it comes to film, you keep everything intact. You basically keep everything, unless it's at the end and you just have whole sections that are blank. Most people keep any mistakes. And so with this image, I actually decided to print it. And then it got me thinking about all of those mistakes that happen on rolls of film. It's usually at the leader, at the beginning, sometimes at the end. You get light leaks, especially with old funky cameras. And a lot of that stuff is kind of thrown away if it's at the beginning or the end. People kind of tend to cut it off, or it's just usually ignored because it's not, again, as I've said over and over again in every single one of these episodes, what we expect or what we're looking for. And this serendipitous image is really, I think, quite beautiful. And so let's look at it now. So as you can see, there's a definite horizon line, and then this ethereal light shining up, shining down from somewhere that just blends into this darker area. And it actually can be oriented in any particular way, but I oriented it this way because that's how it showed up on the contact sheet. And so I believe that was actually how it was taken. But I don't know which way the camera was oriented. I have no idea what this even is. If I was using a different kind of film, this is a 127 medium format, so it doesn't have sprocket holes like a 35 millimeter format camera has, if any of you are familiar with film, because it almost looks like light leaked, you know, through the side or somehow, and those holes were created by the sprockets. But this film doesn't have sprocket holes, so it's just this magical image. And from this image, I again started just thinking about, well, what other film do I have that has these weird leaks in it? And so I pulled out one of my many binders and started looking through my sheets of negatives, and I came up with several different things that I really enjoyed. This image is very reminiscent of the work that Hiroshi Sugimoto does with the seascapes, and I think I purposely subconsciously recreated the image. The horizon line isn't quite in the middle. This is actually quite an exaggerated enlargement of a section of a film that light just leaked on it. It wasn't even a frame of anything. I think it was the beginning of the roll. And but while I was looking at the film on the light table, I saw what looked like, a sky area and an area that looked like a sea with this sort of white, caps or a little bit of the water in there. But it's fascinating because this is just light leaking onto film. It isn't actually a picture of anything. I don't even think the shutter went off. This is just an end or beginning of a section. And it's, to me, it's just beautiful because it looks like the sky, but it's technically not. And I think it really challenges our ideas of what images really are. And it's a great example of how the human brain is constantly looking for things that really may not be there. It's trying to piece out what something is in an image when it really is just an abstraction of light and shadow. And so let me show you actually one of Sugimoto's images. This is Sugimoto's image, and as you can see, there's a definite horizon line. There's an upper area that's light, that's sky, a lower area that's dark, that's the sea. And I was introduced to his work. We had the same book that I showed earlier in the photo lab that I worked at community college. And one of the downtimes when there weren't students in there, we had a small little library, and I mean little, like a bookshelf, one shelf, that was above one of the work tables. And there was some monographs and quite a few technical books. But Sugimoto's book on seascapes was up there. And I know I flipped through it, I looked through it, I talked with the darkroom manager about it, and exchanged ideas. And so I know that those images got programmed into my brain, and eventually that programming comes out subconsciously or consciously in work that I'm now doing in my current work. And I think it's important sort of object lesson about exposing oneself to stuff, films, music, images, going to museums, talking to people, looking at student work. It isn't something you just look at. You actually are programming your brain, and then that information can be used at a later date, and almost always subconsciously. But sometimes you consciously recognize, oh, this image looks like so-and-so's work, and it informs your work and your creativity and who you are as a person. And so I think it's really important when we look at things to think about why we're looking at it, or if we even should. I mean, I think it's something that is neglected in our teaching methods. So this series isn't just about finding negatives that have funky, wonky light leaks or accidents happening on it, or just chance encounters. It actually is now enveloping work that I'm purposely making. And this is a picture of the ceiling and the wall meeting in one of the rooms in my house. And I actually had ideas for taking pictures of shadows dating back, decades, 30 plus years. And I didn't know how to do it back then. I tried to take photos, and I had a point and shoot Minolta that had an automatic flash that would click on and destroy the shadows. And now that I have the skill set, I can take pictures of shadows and, of course, the correct equipment. And I've been looking at light reflecting on the ceiling in several of my rooms, one in my bedroom and one in the living room. And I still haven't figured out how to take the pictures of those in my bedroom, because the moment you start moving things around, the curtains change, and if you don't do it at a certain time of the day, the light changes. So you're taking pictures of shadows is taking pictures of the fleeting moments that come and go, sometimes more quickly than you can get the equipment out and set it up. But this image is actually taken in the living room with artificial light, and it's a very long exposure. It's like 3 or 4 minutes, so it takes trial and error, and I went through, I think, 3 rolls of film before I actually got anything on it, and then when I did, it was just like magic. And this is also printed on an Ilford art paper. It is basically a watercolor paper that they've sensitized, and it's thick, and it's got lots of texture, and it just made this image pop. And I wish you could see it in real life, because it's absolutely beautiful. The goal of this series is to eventually print on 20 by 20 paper. All the images are square, and I think blown up that size, it would be absolutely beautiful. And hopefully I'll be getting back in the darkroom and working on this next year and have some big prints. I think I'm going to show you one more image, and then we're going to end the session. This final image is another quote-unquote mistake I found in my negative archive. I think there's actual scratches on the emulsion, reminiscent of what some of the pictorialists did at the turn of the century, from the 1800s to the 1900s. And it's just another way to sort of experiment with film. I didn't purposely do this. It went through the camera this way, and I found this in my negative archive, and just wanted to share it as yet another example of how serendipity can come into play. And I've been talking for quite a while, so let's end this session. So I can go on and on and on and talk about my work, and that's probably boring at some point. There are several more images that I would have liked to share today, but getting a little long in the tooth in this video. So I appreciate you tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Next month, we're going to be talking about the origins of inspiration, as I think this is a good segue from this segment into that topic. Hopefully we'll have Metz on the show, and I'm looking into maybe getting another live guest. We will be social distancing, probably on 2 separate devices, and maybe even live. So look for updates on our Facebook and Instagram to what's going on next week and the next several weeks in August. And if you like the show, please share.